Just do it in the media center there?
Time is 6 p.m. Council City, Denison, now convening the regular session. Tonight's invitation will be given by Pastor Raymond England from Trinity Lighthouse Church.
Father God, we come today to thank you for your favor, your blessing upon the city of Denison. Lord, you've told us in your word, as we acknowledge you in all of our ways, you will direct our paths. Father, we pray for wisdom. We pray for direction and protection. And we give you praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item number 2, consent agenda.
Mayor, make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, there needs to be a correction made on the minutes of 9-9.
Okay.
Mr. Ben Munson was referred to as Bob Munson.
Mayor, move to approve the consent agenda with those corrections being made.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Beck, second from Councilman Gott. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item number 3A, public hearing on demolition of structures. Mr. Jackson.
Mayor and Council, we have 4 structures that we'd like to bring to you tonight to consider ordering the demolition of these buildings. This is a map showing where the buildings are in relation to overall within the city. First one is at 931 West Atchison. Here's a picture of the front of that building. There's another picture of the side of the building. That's something showing on the interior of the building. And then here's another section of the building that shows more like a lean-to off the side. And then here's another picture of the right side of the building off of Atchison. Based on what we saw here, we felt like that portions of the building were subject to collapse. The building is in poor condition, and based on that, we were recommending demolition of this building. The second one is at 501 West Munson, and this is a picture of the front of that building. Here's another picture of the building. You can see that it's not level at all. It's very out of square, out of plumb. And here's another picture of that building as well. And based on the fact that the building is out of square, out of plumb, it's not, the walls are leaning. There are some issues with the structural stability of this building. In fact, there has been an effort made to bring this forward to the council in the past. However, it was occupied, and now it's unoccupied. And based on that, we're recommending that the council approve the demolition of this building. The third building is at 701 South Myrick. It's a small commercial building that has been unused for a number of years. You can see that we had an issue with the electrical service a few months ago. I had to call Encore and have them to remove the electrical service because there was a hot electrical line running down to the building, and the electrical, the meter had become dislodged and was in jeopardy of coming off the building, which we would have ended up with a live electrical line in the street. The building itself is just beginning to deteriorate, fall apart, and our concerns are that we have people in the area. We're concerned that there may be some collapse, some portions of the building beginning to decay and fall apart, and based on that, we're recommending demolition of this building as well. The last building is at 517 West Owings. This building is in the vicinity of Munson Stadium. And this is a picture of the front of this building. This is a side picture of the building. You can see that there is a hole in the roof that they've attempted to patch, but has not been patched correctly or doesn't appear to be holding out water. You can also see a lot of the wood siding here that has been replaced, and around the windows, especially the one on the right side, it is deteriorated. And then you can also see on the left side of the building that one's in bad shape too. We have been working with the owner. I believe he is here tonight. And there is, we've not had any movement on any repair of this building since working with the owner. And we would recommend that the council authorize the demolition of this building as well.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to any of these properties? Board? You would please name and address for the record?
My real name is Jamie, but actually in Spanish it's Jaime. But when people said it in Spanish, they didn't say it right, so I preferred Jamie for some time. But then I learned that Jamie is also a girl's name. My mom would be very upset about that. And so I decided James.
And your address, please, in
31.
English for the record.
831 West Sears Street.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
517 West Owings, that's my property. I am a real estate entrepreneur, and I bought this fixer-upper to work on it later on. And I think all the items that need to be fixed can be fixed, and the property can be saved. This is a historic building also. It used to be like a hotel. It had 4 different rooms for people to stay overnight when they got off the train. And I think it's a very beautiful building. It just needs a new roof, a lot of things that can be fixed. So what I would like to have is a year to bring it up to code. The reason for that is because, as you will know, I have been working on the building at 700 West Sears block. And this property, I spoke with the insurance agent, and he said that to rebuild this property would cost about $325,000. I have it insured now for a certain amount. And for instance, the electrical work has been approved and it's in good condition. So I would like to have a year to bring it up to code.
Sir, what we do on the residentials is, how long have you owned the property?
I don't remember exactly, but about a year or less than a year.
Okay, so you've received several notices about the project?
One, I believe.
Just one notice?
And by the way, my question to Mr. Jackson is, can these items be fixed? Because I think they can be fixed.
Glenn, how many notices do we send?
We send out one notice initially, then we send out a second notice that provides the date, or that provides the release information, and then we send a third notice that establishes the date of this hearing. So there's actually 3 notices that are sent.
Okay. So what the council customarily does is, on these residentials, is we give you 10 days to pull a permit and 6 months to complete the work. The property has, I mean, again, you've received some notices. We need action, we need relief. It's a standard for folks that want to come. All we do is encourage you to make sure that you visit with the chief building official before you spend any money at all, because what we would hate for you to do is get into it, spend some money, and realize that won't bring it up to code. So just make sure that you visit with the chief building official to make sure, absolutely 100% sure, you know what it takes to bring it up to code, just to protect your investment of the rehab.
The first notice I got from his office was about the property being on the demolition list. And I think that's a violation of federal law that says to follow due process, talking with me, looking at other possibilities. I think there are some violations there. The reason, and I think this should be considered as a separate case, as a special case, because I have been working on the building that I mentioned, the Benjamin Franklin Castle, and that has taken me, for instance, the last month I have been working on it, and I cannot start working on this in 10 days. Right? It's not
I'm not
realistic.
asking you, we just, the policy is that that you pull the permit in 10 days and complete the work in 6.
That's why I'm saying that the policies should be reconsidered, rewritten, and my case be analyzed independently, and to be courteous and to cooperate with people. I am a real estate entrepreneur. This is my work. This is what I do for a living. And so the question is, are you going to let me work here or not? Or because this is what I do. It's like a mechanic that buys several cars that need to be repaired, and he has on his lot 2 or 3 cars. He cannot work on them all at the same time. He has one to work on several months later. It's the same thing. So there's, in the Middle Ages, the whole Inquisition had a law, a rule that said you should not look at the sky. That was the law. And Galileo Galilei, the astronomer, had to face the Inquisition for that, and he was punished and threatened. They were wrong. All that was wrong. So rules have to be rethought, and individual cases
Mr. Hannon, did you have?
considered.
I did. Mr. Rowe, I think what council's saying is, and this is what our policy is, and then you will have another letter that is sent to you that if you feel you've been mistreated, you have legal redress after that second letter, and that second letter talks about what that redress is. But council, what I hear you saying is that you're prepared to give Mr. Rowe 6 months to bring this property up to code, provided he pull a building permit in 10 days. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's not reasonable because I have
I
been.
think this body has made the determination that it is reasonable. And if you have argument to make on that, this is not the form to do that in.
Excuse me?
This is not the forum to do that in. It's a public hearing. If you open your piece, then Mayor, I kick it back to you to move forward with the process.
What I would like to do, I have one request related to this situation. Is that okay too?
Yeah, a request related to one of these 4 properties.
Well, what I'm doing as a real estate entrepreneur and my situation.
Before you do, I need to know from legal counsel.
This is not about an posted
Okay.
agenda.
Sir, this has not been posted to the agenda, and we're not going to talk about this. Okay? We can't talk about this.
But Mr. Rowe, if you want to hand it out to me, I'll make sure council receives a copy of it.
Understand, items such as this have to be a posted agenda item for discussion in the public. Anything else about one of these 4 properties?
No, this is the only property I own, and because of time limitations, my request has to do with the building, the Benjamin Franklin building.
Okay.
And because I have been doing a lot of work on it for the last 4 weeks.
Mayor, this is not a posted agenda topic.
All right, thank you, Mr. Roller. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak to one of these 4 properties? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Motion from council.
I make a motion, we approve the demolition list with the exception of the 517 Owens, of what we've discussed, giving them 10 days to pull a permit, 6 months to complete the project should it choose to.
Second. Have a motion from Councilman Spindle, second from Councilman Hanley. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign.
Mayor, just to clarify the motion, complete the project means bring the structure into compliance with all codes.
Codes, yes.
Agenda item 3B. public hearing on sign variance. Mr. Jackson.
Mayor and council, the applicant has requested to erect a 300 square foot real estate sign advertising the sale of property at the corner of State Highway 91 and US Highway 75. Our current ordinance allows for a 32-foot sign to be put up to advertise the sale of property. This particular item went to the Building Appeals Board, and the board denied the variance request for 2 reasons. The main reason was that the ordinance requires the board to determine that 3 of 4 items be proven in order to grant a variance. They could only see that 2 of those items would apply in this case. And the second issue was that there was actually a comment made that if we allowed someone to put up a 300 square foot sign, which was similar in size to a billboard sign, that all of the real estate agents that had properties that they were listing along Highway 75 would want to put up similar size signs. So based on that, the variance was denied. The applicant, by ordinance, has the right to appeal that to the city council, and they have appealed it, and that's where we're at tonight.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to or against this agenda item? Name and address, please, for the record.
Ricky Bates, 103 East Crawford, here in Denison. I have a client, Doug Holly, Master, that owns a property there at 75 and 91, and he's got the 10 acres there that he's wanting to sell and, go with a larger sign. I know it comes where they say that, somebody else might come later and want to put up a larger sign. I've been doing signs for 23 years. This is probably the second time I've had a request from anybody to build this type of sign. It's the structure is not wood, it's all steel sign, it's engineered. It's other than just the plat of the land, we've additionally added the new school design to the top of it, and since then we've added to the bottom of it the city of Denison. It's a Mr. Holly just he's out of town. He just wanted something larger there. It sits on 10 acres. There's no other signs on that property. We set it up to where it would be 75 foot back from the edge of the road to where it wasn't right in people's face, but it was still large enough on that 10 acres that it was prominent. You can't see it from the highway. There's there's some other signs, not as big, I say, but there's other signs similar to that size around, in different properties around Walmart in that area over there. He just, like I said, it's designed as well. He just wanted it to where it could be removed. I didn't know if we could come to a variance on this to possibly, or maybe he could have maybe something to set it in for 2 years or something, and then if it don't sell in 2 years, it can be pulled. But the cost of this sign, would be, I don't see a lot of real estate companies investing that kind of money and wanting to put them all up and down the highway. Like I said, I've been doing it 23 years, and this is probably the second, third sign that I've built of this size had to do with real estate. And it's, he's doing a lot, out there in that area, not just that corner, he's got all that property on 84, and he's just hoping this area grows and benefits Denison, the tax base. There's a lot of traffic. There's, everything going to Oklahoma and the casinos and everything. He just wanted to put something prominent enough up there that they could see, what that corner was.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Bates? Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak to or against this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Questions, comments from council? Dale, what were the reasons again from the denial?
There's 4 criteria listed in the sign ordinance, and I believe that should be in your packet. I'd be happy to read it out if you'd like, but
As far as the discussion on
the board felt that they met 2 of those criteria, but they couldn't find a third. And based on that, they couldn't grant variance because they're not allowed to issue a variance unless they feel that it meets 3 of those 4 criteria. The second issue was that one of the comments made by Mr. Bates was that when this property sells, he was wanting to move it to another property that was in the vicinity along 75. And one of the board members was a real estate agent and said, well, I have several properties I have that's available for listing, and I'd love to put some larger signs out too. So if we approve this, I could see my peers wanting to come back and put up large signs all along 75 as well. And so they felt like it was setting a bad precedent, but those were the 2 big issues.
council.
But the other sign he was talking about moving was to 84, it wasn't on 75. It was his property on 84 and 91 is where he would probably have to apply for another variance to move it there at the time.
This is all, this ordinance is, or this is all from our current, we just got through doing the new sign ordinances, correct?
Yes.
Would this have passed on our previous sign ordinance?
I believe that the previous sign ordinance was also 32 square feet.
You know, it's a challenge when we come out and we go through all these committees to come out with new ordinances, and especially with the sign, when we look over it, and so it's so new that we just passed it, to then turn around and say, well, start carving out all these pieces and making changes. So do we need a straight yes vote, no
Yeah,
vote? Or fails for passing?
I guess I'd kick it to the attorney. If the council took no action, does the appeals board really stand, or do they have to make action?
If the council did not vote, because your ordinance requires a vote of 3/4 of the council to overturn it, in effect, the ruling would stand. I would encourage you to actually make a motion that passes so that you have a clear record of what you've done with the appeal rather than taking no action. I think it's better for the record to actually have a vote.
It'd be a lot easier if this is closer to what we were, our size was, to be honest with you, Ricky. I mean, 10 times what our square footage is.
And that's
It's hard
and
to.
two here, that's why, you know, is there a meeting, you know, we had talked back in the other meeting before we got denied, but about possibly a time frame. You know, if it was there for 12 months, 24 months, if it doesn't, then it fell back to
I
us.
think the questions are being, where does it stop? I mean, it's project after project. And for me personally, the time frame, any time frame on this particular property would have to be through July. I mean, just, we don't, the community doesn't want to sign that big when their new high school opens, you know, in the background.
I've got a,
Just a second. Is it 3/4 of the council? Because I don't think,
That's to overturn it, not to.
I think
Not
two.
not to deny the
Yeah, if you wanted to,
appeal.
if you wanted to grant the appeal, you need a 3/4 vote. If you wanted to just deny it, then you don't need a 3/4 vote. What I would also say is that if the purpose of a sign is to advertise that something's for sale, I would ask the question, does having a sign at that location really entice someone to buy it as they're driving on 75? I don't know the answer to that question, but I throw it out there for council's consideration. Even if it's up even until July, I don't know if the person who's gonna buy this property is driving on 75 looking for 10-acre tracts of land.
Well, I guess my first question is, even if the council wants to approve it, and I have no idea what the temperature of the council is on this, we don't have 3/4 of the council here, right?
If you don't have 3/4 of the council, you would not be able to grant the appeal this evening.
Okay, and so we don't, so we can't even,
That's correct.
okay.
You can deny the appeal, but you can't.
Yeah, okay. I
You
get
can deny it, but you can't approve it.
Mayor, you'd asked about, as far as the school, just, I've got a letter on the very back that's from Dr. Scott that, said, he didn't have any issues with that sign being there. This fact, he said that, he thinks it'd be good for the area, for the growth of the area to hopefully, stimulate the growth of it quicker.
Does he understand the size and the scope of the sign?
Yes, he is.
No question of the statement that any growth right there, I mean, obviously, we're incentivized to develop that as soon as possible.
And like I said, I've been doing science for 23 years, and I've just, this is a unique one. Real estate companies really don't invest a lot in their signage. I know the 4x8s, but, they don't invest that much in their signs. They're not especially gonna spend $9,000 on a sign. I know the school just went through theirs and everything and got that, special sign up there, and that costs a lot of money. Of course, it's permanent, but, this is a temporary sign regardless, I don't know how temporary, but I don't know if they could set a time frame on it, but when that sign does come down, there's gonna be a lot of signs to go up there. When it does come down and they start building on that property, there's gonna be signs all over the highway.
How much is our purview is the content of signs? I'm assuming that we're just pretty much the size of the sign, not on the content of the sign. So whether it's got a graphic, so 2 years from now it says open involved 2014, we're not going to discuss
I'll let the
that.
attorney address that, but I think you're correct.
Right, and the purpose of a variance is to give a property reasonable signage relative to other properties similarly situated. And that's why your ordinance requires a finding of 3 out of 4 of the opportunities for a variance, because it's not intended to provide a sort of a temporary relief. It assumes that the property is unique in some way relative to other property, and its uniqueness is what's generating the request for the variance. To make a sign temporary doesn't really get you past the initial inquiries about whether it satisfies the 4 requirements. I think that may be where your sign board of appeals found themselves, is they couldn't get over the hurdles to get to the other details of the signage. So the answer is a sign is a sign regardless of content. And you're right, if it's there, it could conceivably become on-premise signage later on for something that's coming on the property.
When we were at to talk about it last time at the last meeting, number 4, the proposed sign is of unique design or configuration. That's the one that, all of them on that board had a hard time deciding what that meant. They just, and I mean, all of them, they just, Dale kind of clarified it to them what it meant, but it's really not clear on here what it means, unique design and configuration. Well, if you ask me, it's got a unique design and configuration. It has a picture of the school, it has a picture of the city logo. So anyway, that was the question. We was 2 for 3, and questionable on the 3rd.
Understand. A motion from the council.
Make a motion to deny the sign at the request of 300 square foot.
Second. Motion from Councilman Beck, second from Councilman Hanley, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you, Ricky. All right, agenda item 4A, excess property, 627 West Home, Mr. Speaker.
Mayor and council members, we've had 2 requests for the adjacent property owners to declare this, the council to declare this property as excess. Both parties are interested in submitting a bid on that property if it's declared excess property. So the request is to declare it as excess and go out for bids.
Questions from council?
Make a motion, we approve it as excess property.
Second.
Have a motion, Councilman Spindle, second, Councilman McGott, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 4B, adopt an ordinance for the tax rate for 2013-2014. Ms. Wagner.
Mayor, members of the council, we're here tonight to receive a report, hold a discussion, and adopt an ordinance for the adoption of the tax rate for fiscal year 2013-2014. We have had 2 public hearings prior to this meeting tonight. The proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2014 has general fund revenues of $20,889,800, which is supported in part by a proposed tax rate of 0.653377. This is the same tax rate that we had for this past year. The operating budget was adopted during the special council meeting held on September 9th. This adoption of the tax rate is necessary to support that budget. As I said before, the tax rate is the same as last year, but it is 3% more than the effective rate for this year, and that's due to valuations.
Motion from council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of 0.653377, which is effectively a 3% increase in the tax rate.
Second. Have a motion from Councilman McGott, second from Councilman Hanley, all in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Council now adjourned to executive session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss deliberations regarding economic development, negotiations pursuant to Section 551.087 to discuss TPJ properties, and also to discuss Preston Harbor development. The time is 6:32.